Thank you for joining us at Toy Fair University. Up now, we have your guide to licensing and collaborations with key players in the industry, leading by Maura Regan. Go ahead, Maura.
All right. Hi, everybody. A few housekeeping things before we get started. We will have a period of Q&A, but we're asking everyone to join us over there on the couch. I know it won't be a therapy session, but it could be if that's what we need. But anyhow, we will be taking questions. It's just that there is a session right after this one. So in the interest of sort of keeping it moving, we'll just join for questions on the sidelines. But anyhow, let's get started. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day for starters, which is always really fun. To celebrate an industry that loves to celebrate. I mean, what we're seeing here today on the show floor, and certainly what we saw last night at the Toadies, was truly a celebration of what makes this industry so special and so magical, which is not in the least because of all the contributions from everyone here in this room. So thank you for that. It is my pleasure to be here. As I mentioned, I'm Maura Regan with Licensing International. Before joining the organization as president, I was running consumer products for Sesame Workshop, the home of Sesame Street. So as I walk these halls, it's really with a lot of fondness and great memories of all the wonderful work that we've done, creating just magical products that continue to excite and delight and inspire. And again, that's really what we're here talking about. But what's also exciting with this great panel that we have here today is to see the evolution of the toy industry. And certainly as we look at the role of collaborations in the industry, and with the data that Circana so fortuitously released last week or 2 weeks ago, Verena, I think, before we were in Nuremberg, yeah, just in time for Nuremberg, to show the strength of the licensing business within the toy industry. So while we saw, yes, a healthy year-over-year growth of the toy industry overall globally, 7%, thank you very much, what we saw within that was 15% year-over-year growth of licensed toy products. And so that's really no surprise to any of us in this room. And certainly, as we saw last night, the winner, thank you very much, our friends at Bluey, for seeing the wonderful products, the licensed product that won Toy of the Year. Again, this is really the strength of how the industry innovates and adapts to what consumers are looking for. So it's exciting to see. We know that licensed toys accounts for about 37% of the overall toy industry, which again is also exciting. And that continues to grow. This was the strongest and the largest percentage that we've seen since Circana started to track this data. But it really is making for, I think, a really exciting conversation. You're here with amazing experts. And again, lots and lots of opportunities to ask questions afterwards. They're going to tell a little bit about themselves. I know there's no secrets with LinkedIn, but we'll just get started, and you all can introduce yourself. We're here with Kim. You want to start first?
Yes, thank you, Maura. I'm Kim Boyd. I'm the president of Global Licensing and Entertainment at Hasbro. I just celebrated my 20-year anniversary at Hasbro, literally last week. Wow. Thank you. I was telling some of my colleagues that this is the longest relationship that I've ever had. So I'm very proud of it. But I'm also very excited to be here, and it's exciting to see so much momentum and energy continue in an industry that obviously I love and have been in many years. And it's exciting to think about the future and the future of all of our partnerships and so much that we have to look forward to.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And happy birthday, I guess, kind of.
Anniversary.
We should have had a cake.
I know. It makes me feel old, but that's okay. Yeah. I started when I was 10.
There you go.
I am Josh Simon. I'm celebrating my 20-week anniversary at Funko.
You get a cupcake, not a full cake,
so
only a cupcake.
We can celebrate together. I joined in September as the CEO. I spent kind of the first half of my career in the film business, making movies at Disney and at DreamWorks, and then transitioned over to the CPG and consumer products world. In the beverage industry, I worked at Nike, and then prior to Funko, I sort of started and led the consumer products and experiences group at Netflix. So been able to sort of see the world of entertainment, licensing, fandom, trends, and how those things can be translated into physical products. And you obviously cited some of those impressive stats. I'd say there really is like no more exciting time that I've seen over the last 20 or 30 years for what, we all get to do. So it's been pretty fun.
Awesome. Thanks.
And I share that energy. You feel the energy here at the show. My name is Stephen Heller. I lead a top licensing agency, the Brand Liaison, and we are a licensing agency, a licensing broker in every sense of the word. We are sometimes on the brand side and sometimes on the licensee side, and we eat, sleep, and breathe licensing deals, matching brands and IP with top licensees and representing licensees for deals with the top licensors like Hasbro and Funko.
Awesome, great. So as you can see, a real panel of experts up here and a terrific resource as you're working on your businesses or even starting and initiating businesses. So we're going to jump into a few questions, and really we can put this out to all of you. What are you guys looking for when you're looking for partners? And we can just say broadly partners because Stephen looks at things a little bit differently, but just really, what are you guys looking for?
I can start. So at Hasbro, we have such a rich portfolio of IP. We look for partners that are going to treat our brands like they're their brands, and that think about our brands as being story-led, not just logos. And we want partners that are excited to join on that journey with us and are willing and want to drive that full franchise. We also want partners that are experts in their space, so we want to partner with the best. And we look at each partnership like it's a true partnership. So we look for open collaboration, transparency, and our brands are so rich with heritage. Our consumers and our fans are so important to us. We want to ensure that our partners are willing to have the same standards for brand safety and brand integrity that we do at Hasbro.
Awesome. Thank you.
So for us, it really depends which side of the transaction we're on. When we're representing licensees and we're going to a company like Hasbro, we need to make sure that our clients have the criteria that Kim and Josh are looking for. So the right pedigree, the right understanding of the brands, and in particular, that they understand what they're getting into with licensing the top-level IP like this, because there's product approvals, there's product placement, and a lot of things that a licensee needs to be doing in order to gain the trust of the top companies.
Josh, anything?
Yeah, I'd say, so for us, I echo what both of you guys said. I think there's two other dimensions I had mentioned specifically for Funko. So for us, the goal is to turn pop culture into collectibles, and in some cases, hopefully collectibles into culture as well. And so first and foremost, we want to work with brands and partners that have some level of passionate fans. That's where it has to really start. And that could be in sports, it could be in music, it could be in entertainment. But first and foremost, that sort of level of fan passion that exists in the world is where we'd start. I would also echo then secondly the need for collaboration. For us, there's a lot of work that goes into kind of stylizing a product, when something appears as a Funko Pop or a Loungefly backpack, it's not going to be sort of like a one-for-one copy of what a character looks like. There's some amount of interpretation involved. And so with that type of stylization, and then certainly with the level of passion and attention to detail that fans have, it really has to be a really open, honest, two-way collaboration in order for product and marketing and storytelling to really land well for consumers.
Right. Thank you.
It's a super interesting dynamic that I want everyone to appreciate, because when Kim is speaking, she's looking at licensing out her intellectual property, and we use the term licensing out. And Josh speaking right now, I'm laughing to myself because he's looking at licensing in. So he's the one that has to say, okay, how am I going to interpret and how am I going to work with a brand to interpret that brand for a Funko product? So just interesting dynamic listening to the two of you speak.
And Funko is a licensee of ours as well.
We are, yeah. Great collaboration.
Yeah, good thing you said that. Yeah. I think I'll go off the script a little bit just because I think it's interesting is as you're talking, it made me start to think about, so how do you really just find some of these partnerships? And because a lot of times, obviously, folks know Hasbro, they know Netflix, your former company, they know Funko. Many of the clients that Stephen has are big name clients. I'm drawing a blank right now if you couldn't tell. But so how do you, if you're not in that realm of sort of one of the biggies, but how do you find some of your partners, and how do partners come to you, and what is some of the deeper criteria that you use for someone who may not be that experienced? Do you ever consider them?
Yes, definitely. So our partnerships emerge in lots of different ways. So I think because we have such incredible brands that have incredible fans and fandom, so many people have grown up with our brands and therefore are passionate and might work at a company and have great ideas, and we love to hear all of them. And even though we have global brands and we have global brands, we're driving global storytelling, but we're executing locally. So we have a lot of localized partners around the world. So you certainly don't need to be a massive global partner with global reach to partner with Hasbro. Yeah.
So it's a really interesting question. How do you find these deals? And somebody had asked me earlier today, walking through the aisles, well, why do I need a licensing agent? And so part of the creativity that we bring as a licensing agent is we're seeing some of these properties that are emerging really early. So for example, I personally was involved with Jazzwares when they acquired Squishmallows, and then we watched that meteoric rise. We were talking about Pudgy Penguins, if you see it at the show today. We were talking about that almost a year ago. So we're seeing some emerging IP really early, and that's one strategic advantage. And then the other is even a lot of the properties that Hasbro has, and we work with several different divisions at Kim's company, the creativity in the deal making. So seeing the properties early on and then knowing how to put together the deal that's going to satisfy the top brands and the top licensors.
So Stephen, just continuing on that for a while. So then, because you really are sort of the middle person, so how do you bring all the partners together? Because how does that, what's the magic sauce?
So there really is no formula, like this is how you have to do it. Some of these collaborations come when you're talking about something else, like, hey, what about this? And we do a lot of things we represent 7-Eleven, and they do a lot of really cool collabs. But some of these just kind of materialize, and then it's, okay, you're having a conversation, these two pieces of the puzzle fit well together, then the hard work starts. Okay, how do you bring the deal to come to fruition, making sure the needs of both sides are addressed? And then even after the deal's signed, how do you make the product come to fruition? And where does it live at retail? So that's the creativity in coming up with the deals and making the deals happen.
So then picking up on the theme of making the deals, so how do you all like to structure your deals? Because again, that's also evolving from back in the day. Are there any new trends or pretty much how do you like to structure your deals without giving away any secrets? Or unless you want to give away secrets, we're open for it. We're all family here.
Without giving away too much information, we want to structure a deal so that it can grow with our franchise, grow with our brands, and we deliberately try to not box our partners in. And it's important to us that we're thinking about the long term with our partnership and the long term with our brand. So we prioritize that over like a short-term win. So we obviously, because brand integrity is important to us, obviously we have brand guidelines to help protect our brand and our consumers, and safety and quality are so important to us. But it's also just really important that we're together thinking about the future roadmap for our franchises, and that we're setting up a scenario or a deal where it's mutually beneficial for both partners. We genuinely want our partner to experience a lot of success with us, with our brands.
Yeah, look, I'd say there's there's the typical components to every deal, which I'm sure we've all seen in terms of a royalty rate or minimum guarantees, et cetera. The thing that I would sort of level set, and I do think the industry has kind of evolved a lot when it comes to sort of a flexibility and an understanding of like, I don't think people should expect massive amounts, like a windfall of money overnight. And I think, frankly, like the retail world is super competitive now. In some ways, when you look at sort of the competition from, online players, live shopping, just kind of emerging retail channels, and then layering in the sort of digital and physical, proliferation that even, kind of well-known major retailers have. I mean, I've met with like a lot of big retailers here today, and every single one of them is talking about live shopping. There's so many different paths to market. There's so much competition. It can take time to really nurture a new product, new IP, or even well-known IP in a new product format. So, the thing that I think we really try and look for is like a win-win situation and some level of flexibility. Like if what we create together is successful, everyone should share in the upside. But at the same time, I think I always try and make sure people's expectations are set, because even for something that's on the shelf at Walmart or Target, that's like maybe a third of the battle, getting it on the shelf. Whether it actually sells with consumers is a whole nother story as well. And there's a lot of risk associated with that. So I think that kind of shared understanding of where the ecosystem is at now is important. And for us, like if we win, our partner should win as well.
So I look at it's really a two-part process, and like Josh says, it does need to be a win-win relationship. We always talk about licensing being a partnership between the two parties. So first, you want to make sure the puzzle pieces line up, that the concept behind the deal, whether it's a collaboration or a pure license, that the puzzle pieces line up, it's the right company, the right fit, the product, et cetera. And then the nuts and bolts of the agreement, part two, is how do you negotiate a licensing deal? And I did a video, it's on my website, it's free. I did it for Maura at Licensing International. How do you negotiate a licensing deal? And that's the nuts and the bolts of a grant of IP, term, territory, then the financials, the royalty rates, the GMRs, guaranteed minimum royalties, guaranteed minimum sales. But when you're getting two powerhouses like a Hasbro and a Funko together, that collaboration is so much more than necessarily guaranteed minimum royalties. Or sometimes the halo effect of a really unique partnership is even stronger than the sales and the dollars and cents. So I think it's two parts. It's, yes, the nuts and bolts of the financials, but the win-win, like Josh said, the win-win of the relationship.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, because I think one of the trends that I've noticed, and you see it in the Circana data that you mentioned as well, I think that the more that the world gravitates towards digital AI, digital consumption of media and entertainment, I think the more value there is on physical, and that consumers really place on, a physical product or a physical artifact that's part of some character or world or story that they really love. And so, I think I think there used to be an era where almost like, back in the day, where I feel like, it was, you were lucky if you got to license some sort of IP, and people charged exorbitant, minimum guarantees for those things, because it was like you were lucky enough to be able to create a product out of this, partner's, portfolio library. Now, I think it does feel like much more of a kind of a shared relationship, because it is really difficult to cut through with traditional marketing nowadays. And the competition for people's time is intense, but that sort of physical object that's, sitting on a store shelf, or, sitting on someone's desk, or just like the thrill of the chase and the fun of like finding that scarce product, or, opening a blind box and, getting that character that you love, I think really has helped to kind of level the playing field a bit more. And so I think the more that a partner, at least on our end, recognizes that, the easier it is to do those sort of magical things together.
Well, part of that is, too, the magic comes from the collaboration. And one of the topics today is these collaborations, and I think Funko really set the stage for matching two great IPs together, and the whole being greater than the sum of its parts, because all the top brands now want to be a part of Funko. And if you look around as you walk the aisles, look at all the really cool collaborations that you see when you match two great IPs and create that unique product.
No, I agree. I mean, I always say that Sesame Street taught me 1 + 1 = 2, but licensing demonstrates that 1 + 1 = 3 +++ when it's successful. And it really is a collaborative business model. The premise of licensing, as we know, is it's not I win and you lose. It's together we're that much more successful. So it really is by nature a partnership, truly a collaboration. One of the things we also wanted to, though, touch on is, are there any deal breakers? Like, what would be some of the red flags, or not even just red flags, just real deal breakers for all of you?
For us, I know I keep talking about our brand and how brands
No,
and how
it's good.
important
It's
it is.
what we're
but,
here for.
You know, for us, brand integrity, brand safety are most important for us. So it really is critical that our partners treat our brands like they're their brands, and know that our consumers are what fuel our brands, and so we want to protect them and we want to give them the best possible experiences for our brand. So I'd say, you know, having those high brand standards and ensuring that a partner respects them and celebrates them is critical for us.
You know, if you would have asked me that question a year ago, for this audience, I would have said startup licensees would be a deal breaker. When it's a new company and you want to license with the best of the best, it's a challenge. So a year ago, I would have said it's a deal breaker. This year, we've signed 3 or 4 major licenses. We have a pet client, Sassy Wolf, that we did Disney and Warner and Hello Kitty, and they launched a cat division. This was a small startup company that had a unique product and unique placement. There's another toy company. We just did a license with Fortnite, and that's a startup company. So,
But what's changed then? How did you get there?
So, if you are a startup company and you want to license with a big brand, you have to have something unique. What's the differentiator that's going to get Kim to say, yes, I believe in you and I want to entrust you with our most valued intellectual property? So, unique product, unique placement. Josh talked about, you know, different channels of direct selling. The Sassy Wolf, the pet company, actually had a huge viral social media community of followers. So the differentiator, if you are an emerging company or a new company that doesn't have many or any of the top licenses yet as a licensee, what else differentiates you? How can you show a top company why you should be their partner? Unique product, unique placement.
Awesome. Good. Any other deal breakers, or pretty much just really sort of understanding the folks that you're pitching to, I think is really, and knowing how to break through and what's really important to them. Right.
I guess maybe weak financing, because ultimately it's hard to get the order from some of the big companies that are the big retailers, but worse is getting the order and then not being able to make and sell the goods. So I think, again, making sure your financials are in order is very important, whether you're a licensor or a licensee.
Yeah. Awesome. Good. Since a lot of what we're trying to accomplish here is also help all of you as you're working through and looking at collaboration. So as you're sort of you know, working on your businesses and you're getting a lot of pitches, are there any hints or helpful tips that you can give to folks as they're preparing pitches to come in and pitch you on your most trusted and beloved IPs? What are some of the standouts that folks should be really paying attention to?
So we again, sorry if I'm answering all the questions, but we bring these kind of pitch decks to the, you know, Funko, Hasbro's and Kim and several people on her team. So when you're putting together a licensee pitch deck, there are some critical elements you need to bring, but it's the theme of what we've been talking about to date. How do you bring that through in a deck or pictorially to prove you would be the great partner? And it's all of those things we've been talking about. Now, how do you put that into a pitch deck? How do you prepare to go to the licensor and prove to them that you're a trusted partner? And you must pitch a lot, Josh. Like, before Funko got as big as it is, like, how did Funko get the top IP when it was an emerging brand?
I think, going back to a little bit of what you were saying, I think that for me, the most important part, and I think this is where Funko has thrived over the years as well, is I'd almost sort of say, think about product more, I think you said this earlier too, through the lens of storytelling. I've tried to use this framework that some of my former colleagues I'm looking at over there will roll their eyes when they hear me say, but it's almost like, how do you think about what you're creating as more of an artifact than a souvenir, right? Like, a souvenir is like, I was here. An artifact contains the entire experience. It's like capturing, sort of all the dimensions of some moment in time, a story, an experience. And I think, for us, and I'd say, for you guys, like, it's been interesting. Like, there are like crazy successful products out there that the world has coveted that have only sold, hundreds of units, or thousands. It doesn't take hundreds of thousands or millions of units to be successful. There's been, like, I've been seeing, there's sort of this clip that's been going around online in the last couple of weeks from two different, one was Pawn Stars, I think, and then one was from Golden Auctions of a Wonka Funko Pop that I think we made like 10 units of. We gave away some of them to employees at a Funko Fun Days a few years ago. Someone walked into Pawn Stars and wanted to sell it for $1 million. Now, it didn't go for that much, but one of them is about to be auctioned and I think could sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what's unique about that, obviously, it's, Wonka, really like incredible, great, evergreen IP. But the story around like how and where this product was created, you needed a golden ticket in order to be able to get your hands on the product. It came to life at an event, at Comic-Con. Those elements are really what make it special. And so I think a lot of times, for me at least, I think people try to err on like trying to make it seem bigger than it is or tout how much money you can make. But I think really sort of getting specific about like what are those detailed elements that can make this special and really meaningful for a subset of fans or consumers is really what I think helps to get something across the finish line.
I'm going to have to use that. Souvenir versus artifact. Brilliant.
Well, it goes to the heart, I think, of what we're seeing here on the show floor, which is so much storytelling. And, the business of toys is really telling an emotional story and connecting with consumers that passes from generation to generation when it's done really well. And I think, certainly as we talk about retail, I know we used to always talk about it as another media outlet, because if you think about how much time we spend shopping, virtual as well as in stores, and it really is how you tell that story. Yes, to your point, there could be that souvenir, that one-off, but gosh, how much stronger is it when there is that line that just really reinforces that story over and over again, and again passes from generation to generation. So with that in mind, how do you guys look at retail, which is ever changing and constantly evolving? How are you guys thinking about retail in your strategies, and for folks here, how they should be thinking about it as well?
Well, I'd say consumers are influencing so much of what's happening at retail right now. And I don't know if it was COVID or it's social media, but consumers are desperate for experiences. So retail now has become a new platform for experiences, retailtainment. And we look at it as another platform to tell our stories about our brands. We last year, some of you may be familiar, if you're familiar with Peppa Pig. Peppa had a new baby sister, baby Evie, and it was a new narrative within our Peppa Pig brand, which has been around for decades. And it was incredible to see our retail partners come in early, get so excited about this narrative and so eager not to just put product on a shelf, but to join in the storytelling and to amplify it. And we had retailers like Walmart in the US and Smith's in the UK actually take part in our gender reveal, and they threw parties and they took over their website, and it was absolutely incredible to see retail partners get so excited about our story. So I'd say, consumers are driving this change, what they want, and what's nice is that retail is reacting and responding with the support of all of you, all of us, and great brands.
Awesome.
The Peppa thing was brilliant, by the way. I love it.
This is the crew right here that did it all, right there.
Well done. It's fun. And I think, certainly we will see more and more changes at retail. I think what you're also tapping into is really understanding your consumer. And I think, the consumer isn't sort of even by age, is not monolithic. So it's not, we define by demographics and by age and by generations, but in fact, from a consumer products perspective, it really cuts across and it's not monolithic. So how are you looking at the consumer and how are you defining your consumers as you bring your properties to market?
Just stop me from talking, Josh. So we are fortunate. We have multi-generational brands, and so many people have grown up their entire life with some of our brands. So for us, we really lean into nostalgia. We look at nostalgia as a bridge to growth, not a barrier for new fandom. And we look for new ways to tell stories and to bring in new fans, but also be really true to what fans we know love about that brand, what they grew up with. And that allows you to bring in the new fans and the old fans, and that's where you start to see the multi-generational audiences come together. We just announced yesterday, I think it was, or maybe the day prior, with Transformers, it's a big anniversary this year of the first Transformers the movie in 1986. And some of you that know what I'm talking about might also remember it because you were probably sobbing in the movie theater. Josh was there crying his eyes out because Optimus Prime died. It was a really big deal for fans. So that was a monumental moment. So for us, we want to, pay tribute to that moment with an anniversary, with new content and new programs, but also find ways to bring in new fans with new storytelling, bring retailers along the journey. And again, it just allows us to open a brand like Transformers up to so many new audiences and so many different new generations.
Yeah, I mean, I feel super lucky at Funko because, just even speaking just for the Funko Pop itself, that form factor itself is a really great canvas for storytelling, and it can kind of pivot in any direction: sports, anime, music, entertainment. The list goes on, and so from one dimension, we can sort of have a teen and younger skewing demographic with something like K-pop Demon Hunters, and then we can have a nostalgic fan, in the music space who's kind of buying like a Kiss or Metallica, sort of Funko Pop collection, like Kim probably is. So I think that so we have that broad sort of aperture. What I think the magic is sort of how do you, similar to what you were saying, how do you kind of then use that to get someone to come into the universe and then get excited, like really understand sort of the detail, the design, the reason to get more and more excited about these products, and then go get further and further engaged to buy more. And so, you kind of start at the broad end of the spectrum. We then kind of move for us to like our more limited edition product, which is sort of smaller units, super coveted, that starts to appeal to those people who have kind of worked their way through the funnel and get obsessed with, with all things Funko.
I think when you ask about the age of the consumer or the age of the target market, it really needs to match the property. And you really need to know who you're talking to, who you're trying to tell that story to, or tell that story with. And an example, and I'm not going to say the name of the company, but there was a major toy company here that took a viral property, huge, hundreds of millions or billions of views between 14 and 18-year-olds. And they came out with some figurines and almost dolls that matched a much younger demographic. And it didn't match. It didn't work because of who the audience was and the product. So I think when it comes to the age and the demographic, it's really important that you're matching the right age customer with the right product for the IP. And I always say you need the right brand on the right product. So.
Yeah, I think it really goes back to understanding who your consumer is and really knowing who that consumer is. I'm getting the proverbial hook. Thank you, Anne. All right, so we've got time for a few more questions to go over the panel. And then remember, we have the Q&A on the couch to the right of us. Are there any specific categories that you consider to be major opportunities looking ahead? Are there things that you're thinking about that you're like, yeah, I want to keep my eye on this. This could be really something big. We're going to hear you placing any bets. What do you think?
Well, we love toy, but we're also looking at expanding more in the FMCG, beauty, fashion, home space for our portfolio, and looking at partners that, again, can, we drive a global message, but we were looking for partners that can execute locally, especially in EMEA and in Asia as well.
Okay, awesome.
For us, I'd say a couple things. When I go back to kind of fandom and how people are consuming time, and in particular the amount of time that's consumed on, TV time that's consumed on YouTube right now, which is kind of dominant in that space. It's just the world of these like creators. Obviously, everyone knows Mr. Beast, so he's kind of as big as it gets, but like. To me, it's been amazing how these creators have kind of popped up and have actually been able to form their own brands and CPG brands based on like a very passionate, niche audience of viewers and followers online. It's not a space we've historically tapped into a lot, but it's something that we're thinking about a lot, and I'm excited to pursue in that zone. And then I'd also say for us, we have historically only been a licensed business. But we've created this form factor in pop that sold over 1 billion units to date, which puts it in sort of like pretty rare territory. And so now I'm thinking about like, does it always have to be licensed? What are some original characters and new form factors that could be the next pop or the new next canvas for storytelling? So we're thinking a lot about that as well.
Awesome.
So for me, things that I'm seeing that we know are coming later this year and into the future, I think there's two key areas. Collaborations, which we've talked a little bit about, how to match two unique IPs to create a really unique product, tap into each of the two brands' core audiences. And then another hot area, which I think Hasbro has also broken molds in the location-based entertainment and that Peppa's World and some of the other things that we do that are activations. There's a Pudgy Penguin Valentine's Day pop-up downtown. These activations that then also drive merchandise and product sales. So we're watching a lot of those in development as well.
Awesome. So in terms of just wrapping it up and saying, what are you most excited about then for 2026?
I'm excited about all the new partners that I'm confident we're going to make. Even on the in-licensing side, we just announced partnerships with K-pop Demon Hunters and Harry Potter.
Awesome.
So this 2026 has to be better than 2025. I think we were all happy to see the 25 end. But I'm excited about some of the new brand partnerships we have and some of the new partnerships and new categories that we're going to unlock.
Awesome.
I think 2026 has probably the strongest entertainment slate that I think I've seen since maybe pre-COVID times. So, across that whole spectrum of, everything from, a pretty great portfolio from Disney, Moana live action and Toy Story 5 and Mando Grogu and Avengers Doomsday at the end of the year, One Piece live action on Netflix, the end of Stranger Things season 5, but a new animated series that's coming up on Netflix that's pretty incredible. Some great stuff in the DC universe, Supergirl. It's just like, it's an incredible year for entertainment content, and I think that's going to drive a lot of fun for the type of stuff we get to do.
Excellent.
And I'm really interested to see what happens with 3 properties that I've seen here, 3 emerging properties, just to see what happens with Schifidol, Italian brain rot, a huge property in Nuremberg. Really interesting to see what happens with that one. B. Duck, an incredible property out of Asia. And then the spiral cute families of Mufassan, Chikawa, I can't even pronounce them all, but 3 newer properties that we see emerging, and I want to see what happens with those, so be very interesting.
Well, thank you all so much. It's really a terrific and interesting panel. And again, they're at your mercy. You can come over to the couch, but really thank you all so much for really an interesting discussion. And I'm excited to see what's next, and come back next year and we'll see what came true. So thank
Thanks,
you all
Maura.
again.
Thanks.
Have a great rest of the show, everybody.